I had been cleaning out my garage for weeks, sorting through the dusty relics of my father's old workshop. He had been a mechanic in his heyday, and the place was a treasure trove of vintage motor tools, some dating back to the 1950s. As much as I cherished the memories associated with these tools, it was time to let them go. So I decided to post an ad on Craigslist, hoping to find someone who could appreciate their value. One sunny morning, I received a message from a potential buyer named Mike. He seemed genuinely interested in the tools and was willing to pay my asking price. We agreed to meet later that day, and I felt a sense of excitement mixed with nostalgia as I prepared for the sale. As the appointed time approached, I arranged the tools neatly on a table in my driveway. Mike had mentioned he would arrive around 3:00 p.m., but to my surprise, his car pulled up at 2:30 p.m. I greeted him with a friendly smile, but something about his demeanor set off a faint alarm in my mind. Mike examined the tools for a few minutes, nodding appreciatively at their quality. Then, with a sly grin, he turned to me and said, "You know, I think these are worth way less than what you're asking. How about I give you half of your price, cash, right now?" I was taken aback by his audacity. The tools were in excellent condition, and I knew their true value. Politely, but firmly, I declined his offer. Mike's smile vanished, replaced by a scowl, as he muttered something under his breath, and stormed off without another word. I watched his car speed away, thinking that was the end of it. But little did I know, the bizarre encounter was far from over. Later that evening, I noticed a black sedan parked conspicuously across the street from my house. It had tinted windows, and the engine was running. My unease grew as the car remained there for hours, and I couldn't shake the feeling that Mike might be connected to it. As the days went by, the presence of the mysterious car became a constant source of anxiety. I spotted it at odd hours, sometimes in the middle of the night, always lurking nearby. It felt like I was being watched, and I couldn't help but wonder if Mike was behind it all. One evening, my worst fears came true. I heard a noise outside my house, a shuffling and fumbling at my front door. Heart pounding, I crept towards the window and peeked outside, only to see Mike standing there, wearing a ski mask and holding a gleaming knife in his hand. Panic surged through me, but I knew I had to act fast. I called 911 and whispered my address, telling the operator about the intruder. With trembling hands, I grabbed a baseball bat and hid in a corner of my living room, ready to defend myself if necessary. Mike managed to force the door open, and he entered cautiously, unaware that I was waiting. When he saw me with the bat, his eyes widened in shock, and for a moment, we stared at each other in silence. But I couldn't afford to hesitate. With a surge of adrenaline, I swung the bat at him, catching him off guard. He stumbled backward, dropping the knife, and I rushed towards the front door, screaming for help. Neighbors who had heard the commotion came running, and Mike, disoriented and bleeding from a head wound, attempted to flee, but he didn't get far. The police arrived just in time, and after a brief struggle, they apprehended him, placing him in handcuffs. As the adrenaline wore off, I felt a mixture of relief and anger. Mike had come to my home with malicious intent, and I couldn't help but wonder what might have happened if I hadn't been prepared to defend myself. The investigation that followed revealed a disturbing history of criminal activity on Mike's part. He had a record of thefts and assaults, and it turned out he had been using Craigslist to target unsuspecting victims for some time. My encounter with him was just one chapter in a long list of crimes. I learned a valuable lesson from this harrowing experience. It's essential to trust your instincts and be cautious when dealing with strangers, especially in the world of online transactions. While I had hoped to sell my father's old motor tools to someone who would appreciate them, I ended up facing a dangerous criminal instead. In the end, justice was served, and Mike was taken off the streets. But the memories of that terrifying night would stay with me forever, a stark reminder of the darkness that can lurk behind seemingly innocent encounters.